Welcome to Health 2660. Here we don't just talk about health, we tell the stories that heal. Now please listen to the story. My name is Harold. I'm 74 years old. And for a long time, I thought losing strength was just part of aging. You know the usual story you get: slower, weaker, your legs feel heavier getting out of bed. People tell you it's normal. Doctors say that's just aging. And so I believed it. Until one evening, something shifted. Let me take you back. It started with small things. Climbing stairs felt more like a chore than it used to. Reaching for the top shelf made my arms tremble. And one morning I dropped my coffee mug. Not because I was clumsy, but because I simply couldn't hold it. My grip gave out. That scared me. You see, I wasn't always like this. In my younger days, I loved gardening, working on my old motorcycle, even dancing with my wife in the kitchen on Sunday mornings. But lately, I had begun to withdraw. I'd tell myself I was just tired, but deep down, I was afraid. Afraid of losing control of my body. Afraid that one fall would change everything. Then came the night I couldn't get out of bed. Not because I was hurt, but because I just didn't have the strength in my legs. I sat there stunned. That's when my daughter Amy called. She's a nurse, sharp, practical, and gentle when it matters. She listened quietly, then said, "Dad, have you been eating before bed?" I laughed. "No. Isn't that bad for digestion?" She paused. "Not always, especially not for you. There's something I want you to watch." That night, I sat with a blanket over my knees and clicked on a video she sent me. The title: "Seniors Eat This Before Bed, or Your Muscles Will Keep Disappearing." I almost rolled my eyes. Another health fad. But I kept watching. And for the next 20 minutes, I was silent. The video explained something I had never heard before: that seniors over 60 can lose muscle mass during sleep if they go to bed without the right nutrients. That's something as simple as cottage cheese, a hard-boiled egg, or even a tablespoon of almond butter could help prevent overnight muscle loss. I was stunned. Could it really be that simple? The part that hit me hardest was the statistic: we lose up to 8% of our muscle mass every 10 years after 60, and most of that happens at night. While we sleep, I remembered all those nights I'd skip dinner thinking it was healthier. All those times I thought I was being disciplined by going to bed a little hungry. Was I starving my muscles without even knowing? The next morning, I called Amy. "Tell me exactly what to eat." She laughed in that loving way daughters do when they're proud of you for asking. That evening, I made my first bedtime change. Half a cup of low-fat cottage cheese, a sprinkle of cinnamon, and just a few slices of banana. Nothing fancy, but somehow it felt like hope. I did it again the next night. And again. By the fourth night, I noticed something. I didn't wake up as stiff. My legs didn't ache as much when I stood. My hands weren't trembling with the coffee mug. A week in, I added a hard-boiled egg some nights, just as the video recommended. Other times, I had Greek yogurt with chia seeds. Sometimes, when I needed something warm, I'd sip a glass of turmeric milk with a pinch of black pepper. Each time, I felt like I was doing something kind for my body, not punishing it, not toughing it out, but nourishing it. I even began writing little notes in a journal. Slept 7 hours, woke up easier today. Took a longer walk without stopping. Lifted the hose without arm pain. Tiny victories. But they mattered. One night, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my shoulders. They weren't drooping as much. My posture seemed steadier. Could this really all be from eating before bed? I went back to the video and watched it again. This time, I took notes about whey protein smoothies, tart cherry juice, and how even something as simple as almond butter could reduce cortisol and protect muscle during sleep. It wasn't about supplements or gym routines. It was about timing and intention. I started telling my friends. George from down the street, who always complained about leg cramps. Marjorie, who's been feeling frail since her last hospital stay. You don't need to eat a whole meal, I'd say. Just try a scoop of yogurt or a small protein shake. Before bed, some shrugged it off, but others tried it. And like me, they noticed the difference. It became my little nightly comfort, a small bowl, a spoon, a soft jazz track playing in the background. This wasn't just about food. It was about reclaiming something I thought I'd lost: my strength, my independence, my dignity. Dr. Patel, my primary doctor, was shocked at my checkup. "Your strength has improved," she said. "What have you been doing?" I smiled. "Eating before bed." She raised an eyebrow. I handed her the notes I'd printed from the video. She read in silence for a moment, then looked up. "This is smart," she said. "Really smart." That night I walked a little taller. You see, I thought I was just getting old. But now I know better. Aging doesn't have to mean disappearing. It doesn't have to mean becoming invisible, weaker, or less capable. Sometimes it just means learning how to care for yourself in new ways. With gentleness, with wisdom, and yes, with a little cottage cheese. So if you're over 60 and waking up stiff, if your legs feel like sandbags and your arms tremble at the smallest task, please don't ignore it. It's not just aging. Try this. Try one small meal half an hour before bed. Make it protein rich. Make it count. Give your muscles what they've been asking for. You're not too old to get stronger. You're just getting started. But here's the thing. While the bedtime snacks were making a noticeable difference, I still felt limited. Gardening, for instance, was easier, but I couldn't kneel for long without my knees protesting. Working on the motorcycle, forget about it. Bending over the engine for more than a few minutes sent shooting pains up my back. The cottage cheese had helped me regain some lost ground, but I was far from where I wanted to be. The video, helpful as it was, only addressed the muscle loss during sleep. What about the rest of the day? What could I do to build strength, endurance, and flexibility throughout my waking hours? I knew I needed more than just a bedtime snack. I needed a plan, a strategy to combat the age-related decline that I had so readily accepted for so long. That's when I stumbled upon another piece of advice, this time from an unexpected source: my grandson Leo. He's a college student studying kinesiology, and he suggested something called resistance training. Now, I'd always thought of resistance training as something bodybuilders did, grunting and lifting massive weights in a sweaty gym. The thought of me, a 74-year-old man, doing that seemed absurd. But Leo explained that resistance training could be modified for any age and fitness level, that it didn't necessarily involve weights at all. That's when he introduced me to the world of resistance bands. Lightweight, portable, and surprisingly effective resistance bands seemed like a safe and manageable way for me to start building strength. He created a simple routine for me, focusing on the major muscle groups: legs, arms, back, and core. He showed me how to use the bands correctly, emphasizing proper form and controlled movements. We started slow, with just a few repetitions of each exercise. And to my surprise, it wasn't as difficult as I had imagined. In fact, it felt good. My muscles felt challenged, but not strained. My joints felt supported, not stressed. And after each session, I felt energized and invigorated. But there was something else, something I wasn't quite prepared for. As I continued with the resistance band exercises, I started to experience a different kind of pain. It wasn't the sharp, debilitating pain of injury or overexertion. It was a dull, aching pain that seemed to be coming from deep within my muscles. A pain that lingered for hours, sometimes even days after my workouts. I initially dismissed it as simple muscle soreness, but it persisted, and I began to wonder if I was doing something wrong. Was I pushing myself too hard? Was I using the bands incorrectly? Or was this a sign that resistance training was simply not suitable for someone my age? I knew I needed to find out what was causing this pain, and more importantly, how to manage it so I could continue on my path to reclaiming my strength. I decided to delve deeper into the world of exercise science to understand the physiological processes that were taking place in my body as I engaged in resistance training. I wanted to know why my muscles were aching and what I could do to alleviate the discomfort without compromising my progress. My research led me to a wealth of information about delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS, a common phenomenon that occurs after intense or unaccustomed exercise. DOMS is believed to be caused by microscopic damage to muscle fibers, which triggers an inflammatory response that leads to pain and stiffness. I learned that DOMS is not necessarily a sign of injury, but rather a normal adaptation process that helps muscles become stronger and more resilient. Armed with this knowledge, I began to experiment with different strategies to manage my DOMS. I tried stretching massage ice packs and even over-the-counter pain relievers. Some of these methods provided temporary relief, but none seemed to completely eliminate the pain. That's when I remembered something Amy had mentioned about the importance of hydration and nutrition for muscle recovery. She had suggested that I try adding branched-chain amino acids, BCAAs, to my diet, as they are known to promote muscle protein synthesis and reduce muscle breakdown. BCAAs are essential amino acids that cannot be produced by the body and must be obtained from food or supplements. They play a crucial role in muscle growth repair and recovery. I started reading more about them: leucine, isoleucine, and valine-3, essential amino acids that sounded like something out of a science fiction novel. But they were very real and exactly what my aging muscles had been quietly begging for. Amy broke it down for me in simple terms. Think of BCAAs like tiny construction workers. After a long day or a tough workout, they show up with their toolkits to patch, rebuild, and protect your muscles. That image stuck with me. At first, I assumed I'd need some expensive supplement to get them. But Amy reassured me, "You're already getting BCAAs naturally every time you eat eggs, yogurt, chicken, or even cottage cheese." That was a relief. I'd already been eating many of those foods as part of my bedtime routine. But as my workouts got more regular and a little more intense, I started to wonder if I needed an extra boost. So I decided to try adding a small scoop of unflavored BCAA powder to my water, especially on days when my muscles felt more sore than usual. It wasn't some miracle fix, but within a few sessions, I noticed something shift. The deep ache that used to linger for days, it faded faster. The stiffness in my legs the morning after a workout, not as bad. And most important of all, I didn't feel like I had to skip a day just to recover. Some nights, I still preferred to keep it simple: a hard-boiled egg, a spoonful of cottage cheese, or a bit of Greek yogurt. But it felt good knowing I had options. I could adjust based on how I felt, how hard I'd trained, or even what I had in the fridge. And that's what I learned about healing. It doesn't have to be dramatic or extreme. It just has to be consistent, thoughtful, kind. As I kept up my routine, the bedtime protein, the resistance bands, and now the BCAAs things started to change. My recovery time shortened. I could train more often with less discomfort. My strength improved. My endurance held out longer. My flexibility slowly returned. I even found myself back in the garden kneeling without pain. And one afternoon, I spent nearly an hour tinkering with my old motorcycle, something I hadn't done in years. I wasn't chasing youth. I was reclaiming it one small, steady rep at a time. But there was still one area that I struggled with my balance. I had always had good balance, but as I got older, I noticed that I was becoming more unsteady on my feet. I was afraid of falling, and I often found myself gripping onto furniture or walls for support. I knew that if I wanted to maintain my independence and avoid injuries, I needed to address my balance issues. I consulted with a physical therapist who assessed my balance and identified several areas of weakness. She recommended a series of exercises designed to improve my balance coordination and proprioception, the sense of body position and movement. These exercises included things like standing on one leg, walking heel to toe, and using a wobble board. They were challenging, but I was determined to improve. I practiced the balance exercises every day, and I gradually started to notice a difference. I felt more stable on my feet, and I was less afraid of falling. I was even able to walk on uneven surfaces without losing my balance. As my balance improved, I started to incorporate more functional movements into my routine. I practiced getting up and down from a chair without using my hands, and I worked on improving my gait and posture. I wanted to be able to move with confidence and grace like I did in my younger days. And slowly, but surely, I was getting there. I was becoming stronger, more flexible, and more balanced. I was reclaiming my body and my life. But the journey wasn't always easy. There were days when I felt tired, sore, and discouraged. There were times when I wanted to give up and go back to my old sedentary ways. But I knew that if I did, I would only be accelerating my decline. I had come too far to turn back now. So I kept pushing myself one step at a time. I celebrated my small victories, and I learned from my setbacks. I surrounded myself with supportive people like Amy and Leo, who encouraged me to keep going. And most importantly, I reminded myself why I was doing this in the first place: to live a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life. As I continued on my journey, I realized that there was more to aging well than just physical strength and fitness. I also needed to focus on my mental and emotional well-being. I started practicing quiet breathing meditation, which helped me reduce stress, improve focus, and cultivate a sense of inner peace. I also made an effort to stay socially connected by spending time with friends and family, volunteering in my community, and joining a local book club. I realized that aging is not just about living longer, but about living better. It's about finding meaning and purpose in life, and about staying engaged with the world around you. And so here I am, at 74 years old, feeling stronger, healthier, and more alive than I have in years. I may not be able to do everything I used to, and that's okay. I can still spend time in the garden, fix small things on my motorcycle, and dance with my wife when we feel like it. Life feels more manageable now, and that's enough for me. But there's still something I haven't quite figured out: technology. I've learned to watch health videos online and order supplements when needed. But things like smartphones, social media, or even just setting up the TV sometimes feel overwhelming. It's not that I don't want to learn, I just find it hard to keep up. Everything moves so fast these days. Sometimes I worry I'll fall behind, or that I'll miss out on something important simply because I didn't know how to use it. I believe technology can make life easier, help me stay in touch, learn new things, even take better care of my health. But truthfully, I'm still a little nervous about it. That's my next step, figuring out how to feel more confident in this digital world. And I know I'll need help along the way. But like everything else I've faced lately, I'm willing to try. Health 2660. Thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, be kind to yourself.